YouTube in the Deep South. And once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. Down in Deep South, college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. You know, we talk about big games for teams. And, of course, this is not going to be on the docket as one of the biggest games of the week. And we're going to talk about why that is not the case later on in this video. But Auburn and Arkansas are at a crossroad. They are two teams that are searching for some identity. I think Arkansas may have a little bit more identity at this point than Auburn does, especially with some of the changes that have been made with the Auburn Tigers. But go ahead and like the video and let's kind of dive into this. Okay, so Auburn takes back to the Plains for the fourth week in a row with a matchup that I think, in my opinion, I think it looms a little bit larger than most projected coming into this 2024 season. I thought that this was a game that Auburn should win. When I did my prediction show, I thought that, Auburn should beat Cal, which they didn't. I thought Auburn should beat Arkansas, and I also thought that Auburn had a pretty good chance against Oklahoma as they faced the stretch that includes Georgia, Missouri, and Kentucky. And there will be some more that will take place after that. But I just really thought that Auburn would have a solid background or have some solid ground going into those games against Georgia and Kentucky and Missouri, especially games on the road. Well, yeah, games on the road that, they probably wouldn't be initially projected to win. And those things changed when Auburn took on California at home with the quarterback issues, 4 interceptions by Peyton Thorne, and the fumble by Jerquez Hunter. You're talking about 5 turnovers against a Power 4 team, which really doesn't get you where you want to be. And that got Auburn in the loss column at home, 21-14, still having a chance to win the football game, but coming up short, obviously, in the end. Go ahead and flood the comment section. I want to know what your comments are as we talk about this Auburn versus Arkansas preview. I'm very thankful for all of you. We've been doing this for about 5 years now. I started this channel just as a place, a space for Auburn fans to come and talk about Auburn football because I moved to another state. I moved to Georgia, and it really wasn't nobody to talk to about Auburn football as it was when I was living in Alabama. I worked in Montgomery, I worked in Selma, and of course you could always talk Auburn football with some of the customers and some of the people, and you see that familiarity with the Auburn license tags and things like that. And it's kind of crazy when I come home now, living in Georgia now, and I'm so used to seeing Georgia tags. And then when I see that Auburn, I'm like, damn, man, I'm back at home. I want to give a big shout out to all the Auburn fans and give a big War Eagle to all of you guys that are fortunate enough to have that familiarity that I used to have many years ago, but don't necessarily have anymore. Now, as we get into the logistics of this football game, I think both units at a crossroad, both at 2-1, and obviously both, Arkansas and Auburn trying to establish some kind of identity for the stretch ahead. The Auburn Tigers are still looking for a firm identity on really both sides of the ball. First week, Alabama A&M gave an incredible amount of hope with a 70-plus win against a SWAC opponent. Arkansas as well, 70-point win against a SWAC opponent. As a matter of fact, as it turns out, both teams win over SWAC teams by a combination of 140 points, 70 points apiece. And, both teams obviously excited about that because, both teams have been kind of on the ropes for the last few years and not being that tier team in the SEC that they wish to be. I think Auburn has had some opportunities. Obviously, before COVID, Auburn had some opportunities in 2017, had some opportunities in 2019, but in 2020, things started to kind of go awry. Now, as we look at the Auburn Tigers, fireworks in week 1 against Alabama A&M, but that fire died down very quickly as Auburn could not find any type of offense. Worst possible case scenario against California, a team that many, including myself, projected Auburn to win. This particular debacle on the Plains led to a quarterback change at Auburn. And, you got Hank Brown there now, seems to be the more sensible choice at quarterback. But we still have some interesting parts to the defense that a lot of folks are kind of concerned about. Led to a quarterback change. Arkansas. I really like Arkansas, actually. Considering where Arkansas has been under the Sam Pittman era and what I have seen in the last few weeks, I see a solid football team. I see a team that has an incredible quarterback that's dual threat, that is finding his footing in the SEC, transferred from Boise State. Um, you know, had an incredible game, passing the football against Oklahoma State, 400 and something yards. And has also in the last few weeks rushed for almost 300 yards as well. So I think, he has, Taylor Green has affirmed himself as one of those dual threat quarterbacks in the SEC. And that's going to be a kind of a scary thing to watch if he continues to develop at the rate that he developed. You take a situation where they go on the road, actually up 14-0 in the first quarter. Arkansas got off to a strong start, but things started to kind of fizzle out a little bit, and they lose that game. I mean, I was shocked. I watched the whole football game, and I watched the progression, and I was like, Arkansas is going to win this game. Arkansas is a very good football team, and I still think they are. I think they are a good middle tier team in the SEC that just missed a huge opportunity against Oklahoma State. And it's absolutely unfortunate that they are where they are and Auburn is where they are. This should be, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I'm not a coulda, shoulda, woulda guy, but I'm going to play the coulda, shoulda, woulda card here. This should be a 2-3-0 teams that are facing each other to go into the meat of the revamped SEC conference. Taylor Green had a great outing against Oklahoma State, but passing wise, but definitely sputtered against UAB. I was, I knew they. Now here's the thing. I knew Arkansas would win that game against UAB. But I do know the clamoring and the fan base are like, man, we struggled against UAB at home. We had to come back from behind a double-digit lead to win this game. Very similar to the Auburn Tigers. These teams are literally identical in what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to, and the hill that they're trying to climb in order to have some type of relevance in the SEC conference. Now, I started this thing about 5 years ago. I remember Josh Pate. Have a lot of respect for Josh Pate. You can catch him on the Late Kick podcast on Facebook. I think he does some things with CBS. I can't think of the affiliate that he has. Very good content creator, very good analyst for college football. Established himself well back in the 2019-2020 era to where he just has a lot of contacts. He just does a great job there. And, one of the things that stuck out to me with him as it relates to SEC football is there's just not a lot of wins to go around. You look at Auburn's schedule. You look at Arkansas' schedule. These games up top, you got to make it happen. And I don't think either of these teams did a good job of taking advantage of teams that they probably should have beaten and they just didn't, because things get very difficult down the stretch for both teams. Arkansas has shown the possibility to be a potential force in the SEC. I think they have a very good duo if they can start to click with quarterback Taylon Green. And, Arkansas, I think, has a good running back transfer of Jaquindon Jackson from Utah, to where if they can get that thing clicking, they can actually upset some teams in the SEC, which could be kind of scary. And they do decent on defense, but just like Auburn on defense, they're not particularly sound, and they have not had the ability to create the turnovers that they would want. And I think Jaquindon Jackson, if he continues at his pace, averaging about 8.4 yards per carry, got 6 touchdowns, well on his way to a 1,000-yard season in the SEC. Arkansas on defense has some playmakers, especially with Sori at the linebacker position with 23 total tackles, 3 for a loss, and a couple of sacks. Well, 1 sack. But neither team has shown the ability to create turnovers, but their offense, they create them. Auburn has shown a trend to where they have to end the turnover trend. Auburn has 7 turnovers, 5 in one game. A couple of crucial ones, even in the New Mexico game, that can prove costly in a game like this. And I think Auburn has to do a better job in the red zone. A game like New Mexico, you got to score every time you're down there. They had to force a field goal. Although they scored 45 points, I think a 17-13 halftime situation for Auburn can be seen as dangerous, but albeit you had a new quarterback and, you had the rain delay and a lot of things going on, maybe Auburn wins that game by a larger margin, but we shall see. The Auburn Tigers enters, surprisingly, this football game at home as a 3.5 favorite. So they're picked to win less than 4 points by the Las Vegas odds makers. Now, in a former life, I'm a betting guy. I don't know as much now. I think I probably should be, because a lot of these prediction shows, I kind of hit it dead on the head. But, Auburn ended this game as a 3.5 favorite with an over-under of 58.5. Here's the issue. Arkansas did not score any points in overtime against Oklahoma State. They scored a total of 31 points. Now, I'm talking about Power 4 football teams, where it kind of matters when you start to talk about predicting these games. Auburn, on the other hand, 21 points against California. And I want to roll the dice and make a trajectory of a quarterback change made prior to the California game. That game would have been different. I think Auburn may have won with Hank Brown against California. We're going to talk about that in the prediction show tomorrow. Now, if you're a betting guy, I think you want to err to the. I mean, this is a really tricky pick for you, because anytime you have a game where there's a favorite of less than, say, 10 points, 12 points, and an over under 58, there's no room for error. You got to be dead on. You got to have done your homework on something like this. Now, you'll see this in my prediction show tomorrow. If you're a betting guy, I think you want to go with Auburn with the over. I think Auburn wins the game. Probably. I haven't come up with my actual prediction point spread, but I think you go over 5 points. I think Auburn wins the game by over 5 points. But that over under is where things get a little tricky. And I think because Auburn has not scored a lot of points against Power 4 teams, Oklahoma, not Oklahoma, but Arkansas had an opportunity to make this thing a little bit more difficult. But I think you got to go with the Auburn over 3.5 points, but dangerously, cutting it super close under the 58.5. What do we want to see here? One, for the Auburn Tigers, we're not going to talk about Arkansas any longer. This is not an Arkansas channel. One, we want to see further remnants of Jerquez Hunter and Damari Austin continuing to run the football. They combined for, a little over 200 yards. I think this is a good thing for them. I thought Damari Austin really showed some great things in this game. Also, Hank Brown, a more sensible choice at quarterback for Auburn, which could possibly lead to even bigger things. And now we look at the matchups in the SEC. I think Auburn will more than likely have some success in this football game. But we look at the matchups in the SEC. The obvious one, LSU and UCLA. I think that's a big one. LSU has been cutting it close pretty much all year. Oklahoma and Tennessee will give a litmus test of where some of the quote-unquote SEC elite will be going into Week 5. Auburn actually taking on Oklahoma in Week 5. But this one against Arkansas for Auburn, I think this is a game that will show where Auburn stands among teams that, have recruited in the portal pretty well and, have had some success moving the football so far. Now, prediction show coming tomorrow. I want you guys to leave in the comment section where you think this game will go. I have a couple of scores that I have kind of juggled in my head based on some analytics, some of what I've seen from both teams, and some of the unknown. Man, the unknown. Guess what? Cam Coleman did not play in that last game. Also, quarterback Hank Brown spread the ball around a little bit to where you don't know. He got, Rivaldo Fairweather. Man, y'all got to be careful in this one. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Down deep south, college football is king. My name is Kennard Vernon Stewart. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger.